Hello, this is News Desk. I am Amisi Nyamiche Thompson. Coming up this hour, thousands of school feeding caterers petition the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection over termination of their contracts.
Some of us, we have orphans under us. We are pleading for him to turn back and look for us so that we should just use the items that we have bought.
Also on our desk, committee tasked to investigate spillage of Akosombo Dam and Kpong Dams worry that victims still sleep in tents despite provision of proper structures. We'll hear from chairman of the committee. And more pressure mounts on John Dramani Mahama's government 10 months after a U-turn to amend LI 2462 as environmental advocates insist on total repeal of the legislation. More from Joy News National Dialogue on repealing LI 2462. These plus business updates coming up on our desk. Do stay with us. I will start from the committee tasked to investigate the spillage of the Akosombo and Kpong Dams is worried that some affected persons are still being housed in tents at the mercy of the weather, refusing to relocate to temporary accommodation built by the VRA. They cite a lack of privacy as families were required to share rooms. This is among several findings made by the committee, and chairman of the committee, Engineer Kofi, joins us for this conversation. He's joining us via Zoom. We're grateful for your time, Engineer Kofi.
Thank you very much.
We're grateful.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
And good morning to you as well. We've just seen that report that has come out, and if you could just fill us in briefly on the findings that you made.
Okay. I think, can we just start with the terms of reference?
Sure, we can.
Okay, so let me just quickly take you through the terms of reference. What Your Excellency John Mahama took office, he promised that we're going to look into whatever happened in 2023 as a result of the spillage, and then its effects on the people downstream who have much concern to him. A committee was put up by the Minister of Energy, Honorable Jinapon, and we're a 5-member committee. Myself, Kwame Jantua, Kofi Ellis, Kwaku Sapon Akosa, and Emefa Fuga as secretary. Our terms of reference were to examine the event leading to the spillage, assess the actions taken in response to the situation, identify challenges encountered during the process, evaluate strategies employed to address the impact of the spillage, additional measures to enhance future outcomes, propose a compensation package for affected victims and communities. So these were the terms of reference that were given. We started work immediately. I mean, the day we were inaugurated, on the 13th of March, we moved everywhere, and we're given a month. But within a month, we realized we needed more time. So we asked for a second month, and then we were able to finish and submitted the report just last Wednesday before the end of the second month. What we did was to go everywhere. We went to VRA, we went to the communities imparted, we went to almost all stakeholders who were involved.
Indeed.
Taking us to almost all the villages and towns in the 9 districts, upstream and downstream. And then we talked to the opinion leaders, MPs, and we also talked to a few people who had also given independent reports on these same issues. We talked to them, took their report, analyzed it, Institute of Engineers and the money. And then we also talked to VRA past executives and people who have some knowledge about spillage and water resource management. So we talked to water resource management, talked to NADMO, and Well,
You mean all the stakeholders involved in this particular issue?
As many as
you could. Well, what's interesting that I found in the executive summary of this report is that 8 million acre, feet of water was, spilled. How do we picture that? Could you please help us understand?
$8 million acre feet of water. So 8 million acres. So you look at that 8 million acre is the area, but water you are looking at volume. So by 1 foot. So you can just imagine. So area is flat. Volume is you take height in addition. So the height is a foot. So that's what it is. But then let me just give you an idea of what it is.
Right.
This is not the first time VI has spilled. VI has spilled a number of times. When the dam was constructed in the 60s, finished in 65, started operating in 66. At that time, not many turbines were ready. So VI had been spilling in 66, 67, 68. 68 was the highest ever spillage in this country from Akosombo. And then the spillage in 68 was 5 times more than what was spilled in 2023. 5 times more in terms of volume. But in terms of flow, now you're looking at how much water is flowing up at the particular time, that'll be about twice. Because this 2023, we went up to 182 CFS, that cubic feet per second. Now you look at the flow, the volume of water coming out. And then 1968, it was about 382. So volume-wise, quantity of water spilled 5 times. And after 1968, we spilled a little bit in 69, spilled a little bit in 70, 71, 72. There was no spillage in 73, then 74. Beyond 74, there was no spillage till 1991. That I remember, I was a young engineer in VI then. 1991. Then after 91, the next spillage was 2010. And the interesting thing was that in 2007, VI recorded the lowest ever elevation in the dam. So I'm just saying this to give an idea to people about how the dam operates. So we went to the lowest ever, 234.97. That was the lowest ever operated. And then within 3 years after that, we went to the maximum and we had to spill. That was 2010. So VI spilled in 2010. After 2010, there was no spillage till 2023. But then the dam itself operates in a funny way. If the flow, the levels go high a number of years, and then it gets to the maximum, then it starts coming down until you reach the minimum. And I must say, we reached the minimum in 2007. They also recorded the minimum again, that's 235. I didn't know that till I was giving this assignment.
Right.
Now, 2017, we went to the minimum again. So we said that it went again, 2023, it spilled. So spillage for a dam, as more inflow coming to the dam, more than you can take. But you only deal with water which comes in. What you take for irrigation, what you take for power generation, what you take for potable usage. But then the bulk of the water you take is the water you take out of the dam for power generation. And in the case of Akosombo, the maximum is about 50 in terms of volume of water, speed of water passing. You call it about 50,000 CFM, cubic feet per second. So that's the amount of water which is passing through the turbines, all the turbines at any time T.
Right.
So that amount of water comes from Akosombo. Then it comes from Kpong as well, because Kpong is downstream of Akosombo. And they call it a run off the river. So every water which comes from Akosombo must definitely pass through Kpong or to generate electricity. So this is exactly what happens.
Right.
So this here has spilled not too many times because the dam Akosombo Reservoir is huge.
Right.
And one good advantage of dams is also it helps you manage flood control.
So let's come to the meat of the matter where the spillage caused
seasonal flood control, so that if it rains several times.
We seem to be losing Engineer Kofi there. I hope we're able to establish a more clearer line with him. Is he still with us?
Yeah.
Engineer Kofi, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Great, great. So let's get into
I can hear you.
Yes, good. Let's get into the meat of the matter. The devastation that was caused, that, you know, affected hundreds of residents in those areas. You talk about the water that was spilled, but also the emergency plan put in place. In your report, you state that there were communication gaps. How were these gaps identified, and who will be held responsible for these gaps?
Okay, I believe we can hold all the stakeholders who are involved responsible, because in the emergency preparedness plans, you have VRA, we have NADMO, we have the district assemblies. Okay, these are all people who are supposed to play some part in managing this situation should there be a challenge. So in the emergency preparedness plan, which was developed in 2010 by Rahas Conning, and has been in existence then. There have been regular education of the people downstream on these emergency preparedness plans as to what happens in the spillage, or as to what happens if the dam break, and areas that will be covered. So there's supposed to be a proper line of communication between VRA and these people. And what we noticed was that there was some gaps in the communication, and that could have also resulted.
So when you talk about gaps, what really was it? Wasn't somebody communicating to someone, or the institutions weren't working together? Exactly what gaps were they?
Well, they could have done better, because when we went round, whilst one group would tell us they sent all the necessary information round, you go to the ground, some people said, well, they were told all right, they came there. Others said they didn't know anything about it. Others said they never really heard anything till the morning when the spillage got there. So these are all misinformation from people. But we as a community realized that the communication, the collaboration wasn't well coordinated.
But what could have caused...
much to be done.
Indeed, because it's not the first time that the VRA is spilling water from the Akosombo and Kpong Dams. So what really went wrong for this to happen? Was there issues with resources, or what? What really led to this situation? Because it shouldn't have, it isn't really the first time that spillage is being done.
No, but the first time we are actually implementation of the emergency preparedness plan is this time, because the emergency preparedness plan itself came into existence in 2010, and then since 2010 we still in 2010, but I don't think the plan was there. So implementing the plan itself, which is very, very helpful, it is the first time we have to do that. There have been desktop review and presentations, and then in 23, there was after the drill, they should have noticed that, well, the safe havens were not available. Certain things that had to be made available were not there. And then between that time and when it spilled, those things should have been made available. But of course, the resources, they were not provided. Safe haven especially. But if you say through your drill that when they spill, I'll move this group of people into a particular location, what are you going to move them into? Into tents, into houses, into something, which should have been there with the necessary facilities like toilets and whatever. But then those were not there. So these are some of the gaps that we noticed. Some of the school buildings were there all right, but then of course they didn't have anything for people to sleep there and whatever. And that's even resulted in some NGOs building some of these things elsewhere. But these are things that we've identified, and then we think when implemented, it will help going forward.
Okay, so let's come to the communities that were affected. How many communities in all, how many residents from your investigation were affected by the spillage?
The communities were, well, in terms of people, just under 40,000 people were affected. Just under 40,000 people were affected. To be precise, is 39,333. And then about 192 towns, villages, and hamlets were affected. But this allied by NADMO. I mean, we work together with NADMO in all these things.
Right. And so there's still the issue about compensation, how people are to be resettled. whatnot. What did you find out about that?
Well, what we found, the people living downstream, I think if I were, I should have also said the same thing, were not compensated when the dam was built in the 60s, when Akosombo was built. Our discussion with them, they think that they should have been taken care of in a way because the building of the dam, Akosombo Kpong, affected their livelihood. So some level of compensation should have been given. That wasn't the first time, but it's the first time to that magnitude. They think they should be given some compensations. Of course, I sort of agree with them, and I believe that's why Your Excellency, the President Mahama, has made sure some money has been put aside to make sure they are compensated. And then when they are compensated this time, it's also add that whatever recommendation we've come up with, okay, in which means creating a flood zone where nobody will stay. So that in which case, when there's any flooding tomorrow, there's nobody there. So compensation will be done this time anyway. But then going forward, there'll be flood zones where people are not supposed to be there. If you want to go and fish in the flood zone, it's allowed, but you don't stay there permanent. If you want to have some small hamlet, there probably, but then you don't have a permanent resident there. And right. I think this is something that will be enforced with the assemblies and the municipal assembly, and then of course some of the people like stay by riverside. So if you want to build your hotel near the river, there are certain things you might have to build on scales or whatever.
So what you're telling me now, what you're telling me now is about your recommendations. Can you briefly give us that, and then also the people who have still not been resettled, what should be done? Briefly, recommendations.
The people have not been resettled, are being resettled now. Some have, others are, some chiefs have been very magnanimous in providing land. So some areas, some people have settled where they are being resettled to, others are not being, but these are all being handled. And I know the government has built some houses somewhere for some of the communities. Some are rejecting the area because they think it's far from where they stay. But it all means talking to people for them to understand and then agree. But there are a few people still in some of the tents. And then there are structures which have been built which didn't give them the needed privacy. And I think when we went around, there was a discussion between VRA and some of the people, and they agreed on what can be done for them to move in those facilities. So I believe some work is ongoing. And I know a committee has already been put out by the president to look into the situation. So now that report is finished, to be handed over to them, let them deal with the NADMO and the Minister of Finance and make sure some level of compensation is given out.
Right. Thank you. Engineer Kofi. Unfortunately, the line has frozen there, but we're very grateful to Engineer Kofi, who is chairman of that Akosombo Flood Committee there. Well, moving on, thousands of school feeding caterers have petitioned the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection over the termination of their contracts. The caterers claim they were not given sufficient notice despite having pre-financed food items for the new school term. Speaking on behalf of the school feeding caterers, Adizatu Ankra appealed to government to allow them run out their contracts. Collins Frimpong reports.
Approximately 34,000 caterers are facing financial distress due to a sudden contract termination by government, despite an earlier directive suggesting otherwise. The letter issued on May 2 abruptly ended the contracts, leaving caterers with significant dents and unused supplies. Speaking to Joy News at the Gender Ministry to present their petition, PRO of the caterers, Adizatu Ankra, said the contract with the government was set to expire in August, making the premature termination even more challenging for affected caterers.
You can't stay calm for this debt to consumers. It's too much. We can't bear. Some of us, we can't bear. I don't know others, but some of us, we can't bear this debt.
She appealed to government to allow them complete their contract and also pay their outstanding arrears.
Some of us are widows. Some of us, we have orphans under us, single parents. We are pleading for him to turn back and look for us so that we should just use the items that we have bought for the third term. And after the third term, we will just leave it calm for the others to come and continue.
Receiving the petition on behalf of the minister, the Chief Director, Dr. Afisa Zakaria, said the government will look into the matter.
I've heard everything, so I will communicate back to her. But she says you people should remain calm. They want to sort out the issues. And then you later get to know the way forward.
The Ghana School Feeding Program, established in 2005, aims to provide meals to disadvantaged school children, promoting nutrition, education, and local economic development. The program currently feeds approximately 1.69 million children, with around 20,000 caterers and cooks employed.
The Ghana Police Service has arrested 9 people for engaging in mining along main roads leading to the Dunkwao township in the central region. 4 excavators, 3 power generators, 5 pumping machines and 5 motorcycles were also seized. Let's get details of these from my colleague Erastus Asari Donko. Erastus, grateful for you being on our desk. What more are you learning on this arrest?
Well, we do know that the Ghana Police Service been mounting a series of raids in forests within the Samraboy Inche enclave, and they have also been arresting illegal miners who are polluting the Tamarind in the Samraboy area for months. Now, stretched towards Central and within the last week, they raided mine sites along Dunkwao big village town, and so quite a number of sites have raided along that. As the 9 guns have been arrested.
Erastus, can you reposition yourself? I'm having difficulties hearing you, and I assume that our viewers as well. So if you could reposition yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Much better, yes.
Yeah, so I've said, what I was saying was that the Ghana Police Service has for some time now been raiding illegal mining sites along the Tama River in forests within the Samraboy area. Now they are stretched towards Dunkwao area, the central region. A number of illegal miners who are mining along the main Dunkwao road leading to the town itself. And so, as we speak, 9 Ghanaians have been arrested. A number of excavators have been seized, 4 excavators, 3 power generators, 5 pumping machines, and 5 motorbikes have been seized from them. And they have been identifying the people they have arrested. It includes Kupitachi 42, Evanse Kroma, Justin, Nana Betiako, Nana Yakwati, Sean Vitus, Gideon Asodina, Atanga Samson, and Yao Se. So they are continuing their raid along this line, and we'll be briefing our viewers and listeners as they go on.
Right. Thank you very much, Erastus Asari Donko. Now, there's more pressure mounting on John Dramani Mahama to repeal LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. This comes on the back of government's sudden U-turn on earlier campaign promises to repeal that particular LI. Government has, after resuming office, put it before Parliament for an amendment of some clauses, a move environmental advocates have rejected. The CSOs re-echoed their position at the Joy News Nature and Development Foundation National Dialogue on Thursday. James Aveji reports.
The controversial legislative instrument 2462, passed under the previous administration, grants presidential powers to approve mining in forest reserves. Before the 2024 elections, then candidate John Mahama vowed to revoke the law. But in a recent policy shift, the president now says his government will only amend it.
On March 20th, 2025, a legislative instrument, LI 2462, was presented to Parliament to amend the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation. This amendment removes the president's power to grant approval for mining in forest reserves.
But environmental protection advocates at the Joy News Nature and Development Foundation National Dialogue on repealing the LI 2462 are united in the call for the piece of legislation to be repealed. First is Awula Sewa, National Coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens.
We've been told that when Parliament comes back, it will be repealed. And we believe that this is going to be the case. So I would like us to move the argument. LI 2462 is a bad piece of legislation. Right. I used to call it a perverse piece of legislation. It is, we believe, going to be repealed.
Her position was echoed by Daraboso of Arocha, Ghana.
The amendment coming from the government, as it is for us, is a total departure and actually completely shocking. They were with us, standing with us, and rallying behind us and moving with us on the call to actually repeal this LI. Countless occasions on record. So for them to turn around and make certain excuses, I see them as excuses to amend, does not really satisfy the political promise that was made.
But of course, some participants hold varied views.
If we have issues to do with people going into our forests, people owning concessions within the forest reserves, then we must take a critical look at the provisions of Act 703.
Director of Nature and Development Foundation, Mustafa Saidu, believes even beyond the repeal, regulatory enforcement must be deepened with the other mining laws to protect the forests.
If you are meant to take away the mining in forest reserve completely, because there are still provisions here that will be guiding the existing ones, you would by all means need to amend and then do something about this.
Okay. Executive Director of Climate Voice Global, Josephine Agbeko, says the grave effects of these mining activities are glaring enough to compel government to take a decisive action now.
The bigger implication is that we're dealing with economic losses, we're dealing with loss of lives, we're dealing with displacement. So people feeling the need to move from one place to the other with no guarantees of better livelihoods, no guarantees of jobs. So these issues need very critical care, very critical need to look at them and need to look to develop really solutions that are sustainable, solutions that are pragmatic, solutions that are not political.
Yeah. But question is, why are successive governments hesitant in taking a pragmatic decision to end the menace? Environmental journalist Erastus Asaredonko seems to have an answer to this puzzle.
You see, there is a political influence to all of this.
The law enforcement.
All the people who are now invading and trying to enter our forest to mine illegally, I would say 90% of them political apparatchiks. Regional chairman, constituency chairman, and all that, who are following people and giving them the backing to go into forest reserves and mine. And that is why the government keeps saying it is complex. And that is why you find that feet dragging, because those are your people. In the past administration, we had cause to name a number of them. And the government did virtually nothing.
One message is clear. Ghana cannot afford to amend her way out of environmental collapse. The environment needs protection, and that must start with the repeal of LI 2462. James Savaji, Joy News.
Now, Teachers and Educational Workers Union, tail of Trades Union Congress, has called out the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission over its actions, which could lead to disruptions across the country. This comes after Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, Professor Ahmed Jinapor, suspended representatives of TAIL recently sworn in to governing councils of public universities by government. Now, General Secretary of TAIL TUC, King James Azotiba, speaking at a media briefing in Accra, said some former members who have formed another union, TAIL Ghana, are equally to blame.
Earlier, I have said that we don't want to make anybody unpopular, but we are trade unionists. We are not paid by the government. We are paid by the laborers that we are fighting for. And we will always stand for the right. He is not partial. He is not neutral. He's an appointee of the past government, and he has an interest. We know what he was pursuing, and we want the attention of His Excellency to be brought that if care is not taken, we will make the public universities very ungovernable.
Thank you.
Well, Teo of TUC continues to appeal to government to take urgent actions which will be in the interest of the public to save the situation.
Were the people who protested and called on GTEC to call a meeting between the two unions and them. That meeting was slated on the 30th of April 2025. We were there. They failed to come. As indisciplined as they are, the request for a meeting, the GTEC gave us less than 2 days notice when we were preparing for May Day. But we made time on the 30th. I was there with my sister chair. The meeting was at 9 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, we were there. And they called us to tell us that we should wait that this tertiary education workers group said they cannot make it. Only for them to come to meet with the Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Commission separately, and then we don't know what went behind the scenes, and he's now telling us we should meet on the 16th and bring some documentation. Whilst preparing for that one, we went further to write to the management of the various universities, instructing them that they should stay put. The sworn-in members, council members of the teachers' educational workers. What power have they got? Undermining the authority of the President of the Republic of Ghana. Let's be serious in this country.
Well, there are mixed reactions from students regarding the President's 120-day social contract. In an address to the nation, the President stated that he had fulfilled his promises to Ghanaians, while some students believe his performance in the first 4 months have been impressive. Others say they've not seen any significant changes in the educational sector. Esther Nkrumah has been speaking with some students at the University of Ghana for Desk on Ground.
It's done some 1 or 2, let's say, good policies that are going to make sure that, or let me say, that are already making students feel relief, because the assurance alone that we are relieved makes you relieved.
I am not in place at all, seriously speaking, that the hope we had and what we heard the NGC said that the Akufo-Addo administration was bad, was ill. We had expected that by now the country, everything has been well. And if you can see, even not the education sector, our normal living, this doom saw how it is affecting people down to come education. I was even wondering why my brother said that everything is going on well. Because what has he done in education? Has he paid the school fees? The disability fees, has he paid it? What at all has the man done when he came into office that we can say that because of that, the education sector is good and things are moving?
In the social contract, he made 4 promises to the education sector, out of which 3 has been fulfilled. Do you agree with him that the president hasn't done anything?
All right, so the whole 120-day social contract was simply to reset the nation, revitalize the economy, essentially to lay a very strong foundation, that could propel John Dramani Mahama's job creation and also anti-corruption drive. You mentioned about things being hard and all that. Today I've seen the CD being 13.2. We have seen inflation dropping 4 consecutive times. Today 21.2. Where today we have 54.1 hyperinflation. Today we have had fuel price dropping. Right, a gallon of fuel that was 70 cedis today is 58 cedis. So I think he has done impeccably well.
You told me that you've allocated 499.8 million Ghana cedis to students, and you told these students that we are allocating it to your account. So the perception of every normal student on the average in Ghana here thinks that, oh, I'm in level 100, so when I go to level 200, I won't pay anything. That's the perception. Then later you come and tell me that you've launched a portal for it. Indirectly, a portal is something like a gateway. Indirectly, you are shortlisting it. Mine is that you are telling you put it in the student's account. So right now, why are you telling the student to go and apply for it? And one of the constraints of this application is that now students don't know about it. I sat on another day 24, one of their WhatsApp group interviews, and I was trying to tell students about applying for this thing so that they get the payment. You get it? Because you have to apply it with a GCB account. And mine is that telling students to get a GCB account before they qualify for a no-fee stress policy is in itself a stress.
Let's take take a look at the 120-day social contract. As students, what were some of the promises that were made that stood out to you, that you were looking forward to? Because there were quite a number of promises that would affect young people and students. We have the no stress policy, the no fee stress policy for level 100, the free tertiary for persons living with disability, the Junior Wear program, the National Apprenticeship program. Amongst all these promises that the president made to the education sector and also to empower the youth, which one of this stood out to you?
One of the most laudable promises that he made that he has actually fulfilled, that I'm so confident and I'm so laudable to the president for, is the National Apprenticeship program. The National Apprenticeship program is to train young people and to support them with mentorship and then with support in terms of funding and in terms of structure and infrastructure, to be able to make sure that the students who are goal-oriented and who are, let's say, industrious-oriented will be able to establish something on their own that will go for them.
We shouldn't be deliberating and celebrating the appointments of ministers by this time. That's number one. I think number two, I think that with the 3 million, approximately 3 million money that was, I call it, squandered on free sanitary pads for primary and secondary, people, I believe that it's a misplaced priority.
While many describe him as a transformational leader, he started the Ghana Boundary Commission from the veranda of his house at Bemakam, and today that institution has become a force to reckon with, mentoring other boundary commissions across Africa. That is the story of the outgone Commissioner General of the Ghana Boundary Commission, Major General Emmanuel Kotia. At a handing over ceremony held in his honor, he urged the commission to maintain continuous inspection of the Ghana-Cote d'Ivoire maritime boundary, which was ruled in Ghana's favor in the 2017 Idlos case. Maxwell Agbagba reports.
Major General Emmanuel Kotia at an event marking African Union Border Day organized in collaboration with Cote d'Ivoire. He proceeds to plant trees, something he's deeply passionate about. What began from his veranda at Bemakam has now grown into the Ghana Boundary Commission. Under his leadership, it has earned recognition across the continent, mentoring several African nations seeking to establish or strengthen their own boundary commissions. He shares the story of how it all started.
And the background is that the machinery of Ghana Boundary Commission was not in existence when I was appointed. In a more humble way, I started operating from my veranda in my house at Labadi Villas in Bemakam. And it was from there that we wrote letters, printed letters, making so many requests that we got various resources to establish the Boundary Commission, including where we are occupying today. That is the modest way that we started. But it's one of the strategic entities of Ghana that we have not paid attention to.
Here at the conference room of the Ghana Boundary Commission, staff and friends have gathered as he officially hands over to Brigadier General Anthony Ntem. Workers praised his dedication to the commission. Major General Kotia emphasizes the critical role of the Ghana Boundary Commission in maintaining peaceful relations with neighboring countries. He recounts an incident where Ghanaian security agencies accidentally strayed into Burkinabe territory but were quickly corrected thanks to the Commission's timely alert.
In the Bongo district, in a border town called Namo, where we went, we realized the Ghana Immigration Service had constructed a building in Burkina Faso territory. So when I asked them, when we went there, I asked them, they told me that they didn't really know where the demarcation is. This is a problem they have created for the Ghana Boundary Commission. Because once the reaffirmation starts, Burkina Faso is going to blame Ghana. Now, why is it that you people have gone to build in our land? So, the advice to all security agencies who operate along the boundary is that once you are going to do any construction, you need to, along the boundary, you need to defer whether Ghana Immigration Customs or the Ghana Armed Forces, defer to the Ghana Boundary Commission so that they will clearly show you the definition of the boundary.
He's urging the new administration to continue regular inspections of Ghana's western maritime boundary with Côte d'Ivoire. In 2017, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea (ITLOS) ruled in favor of Ghana in a long-standing maritime dispute.
For the very first time in April, we were able to convince the Ivorians for us to do a joint inspection. Otherwise, we were going alone. And for the very first time, the Ivorian Navy joined us. And that was fundamental. That is fundamental. We think that that is something that are broken because since the ITLOS ruling was passed, the ruling was given, we've not had the opportunity to confirm whether both countries adhere to the ruling on the international boundary line. Oil exploration companies can stray their way either into Côte d'Ivoire or into Ghana. Fishing activities can stray. So there's a need for us to continue with this inspection regularly so that at least the territorial sovereignty of Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire is protected, and that there will not be any disputes arising out of the international maritime boundary line that has been defined by the international law of the Sea Tribunal.
Reflecting on his tenure, Major General Kutia notes that many border disputes with Ghana's neighbors were resolved under his administration. The remaining issue, he says, is the maritime disagreement with Togo. He remains optimistic that a resolution will open up the Keta Basin for national development.
We have been able to resolve so many petty disputes along our international maritime and land boundaries. However, one of the key outstanding disputes to resolve is the Ghana-Togo maritime dispute. I want to say that that issue has been escalated to the level of the head of states, and probably there may be meetings to be able to resolve it at that level. It is important that steps are taken to resolve that dispute as soon as possible so that at least the Keta Basin can be open for exploration and other activities investment activities as soon as possible.
The new Commissioner General, Brigadier General Anthony Ntem, called for continued support for collaboration from staff and stakeholders to advance the Commission's mandate.
We shall continue to advance the mission of the Commission with integrity, transparency, and a strategic foresight. This journey is not one to be walked alone. I look forward to the continuous support of all.
Go on a break, we'll return with business.
Welcome back to business here on NewsDesk. My name is Winston Haki, and out to our first business story. The process to review the country's current value-added tax system has progressed steadily and is almost ready for implementation. The comprehensive review is expected to simplify VAT payment and boost domestic revenue mobilization. Speaking in a virtual engagement with some journalists and civil society organizations, including Imani Ghana, Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Anthony Kwesi Sarpong, disclosed that the GRA will soon implement the new system.
Ghana is expanding. The population is growing. Today, we are above 32 million. In a few years' time, we will reach 40 million and over. This implies that consumption is going to grow. And if consumption is going to grow, and VAT must necessarily also grow with it. And therefore, one of the areas that we are looking at is how we revamp our VAT to ensure that it is efficient and it is convenient for both the retailers as well as the consumers. It is for this reason that the minister in 2025 budget announced that there will be a comprehensive review of the VAT regime and administration. And as you may know, that exercise has commenced and is also coming to almost its end. We believe that the recommendations that will be made will guide our minister to come out with the right policies. And we, as the tax administrators at GRA, we'll take it on and implement. And we implement it in a manner that will ensure that the VAT, which is the future taxes for this country, is really properly implemented and bring in the needed revenue.
Now, away from that, the Ministry of Labour, Jobs and Employment has launched the Qualifications and Skills Mismatches Survey of Persons in Employment. The survey, which will be conducted in collaboration with the Ghana Statistical Service, is expected to provide data to improve the labour and employment policies and revamp the country's curricula while bridging the gap between academia and the job market. Here is more from the launch of the Qualifications and Skills Mismatch Survey.
The survey aims to measure mismatches between qualifications, skills, and employment. It will also facilitate the production of statistics on qualifications, employment, and skills discrepancies for proper policy formulation. Shadrach Mensah is the Director of Research, Information and Management at the Ministry of Labour and Employment. In an interview with journalists, he stressed that the survey will align skill sets and credentials with market demands across the formal and informal sectors.
There has been a conversation ongoing that the skills that be needed by our industries is not what our graduates possess. This conversation is something that has been ongoing for a long while. But all of while, there hasn't been any data or scientifically proven. So as a ministry, we thought it as wise to dive into it to find out indeed whether the skills that is being produced by our industry, our training institutions, is not actually what the industries demand.
After the successful completion of the pilot phase, data gathering across the nation is expected to begin in June 2025. The Ministry of Labour and Employment hopes to collaborate with relevant institutions to ensure the effective implementation of the Qualifications and Skills Mismatches Survey of Persons in Employment.
The finding, what we want to do is to collaborate with the Ghana Education Service to work on our curriculum that will suit the needs of our industries. We are having about 4 months to do this. Field exercise vary 1 month. Then analysis and the cleaning of data. Then we are expecting the finding will be out in a 4 months' time.
The Qualifications and Skills Mismatches Survey of Persons in Employment is expected to inform the formulation of curricula across all levels, contribute to labour policies, and boost economic growth.
For you after this break, stay tuned.